Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about the worst new shows of the year. This is going to be a top 5 worst shows that started this year. And yeah, so as much as there was a lot of good TV, and there was a lot of good TV, there was always some crap. And this is the video celebrating the worst of what we saw.
And yeah, some of it is really quite bad.
Is. And obviously, we're going to be doing we did a top 10 best new shows. We're going to be doing a top 10 best shows of the year. We're not going to do a top 10 worst shows of the year or anything like that because typically we don't keep watching the shows we don't like. So the other big disclaimer I would say with this top 5 is that outside of the honourable mention, this is all just based on the pilots, because once we see a show and we don't like it this much, we just don't watch. So based on pilots, so if some stuff got better, then fair enough, let us know. But
Hard to imagine.
hard to imagine some of these cases, but that's kind of where we're coming from with this. So yeah, so here's our 5 plus an honorable mention worst new shows of the year. So before we even get to the top 5 or the bottom 5 or the worst, whatever you want to phrase it, I don't know.
Just the five.
The top 5 worst. Yeah, before we even get to the top 5 though, I think we wanted to have a little honourable mention of Dead of Summer, which we stuck with for a couple of episodes hoping it would get better. And there was a slight, this could be so bad it's good. And because it was trying to play to the whole 80s slasher movie sort of tropes, and I'm a fan of slasher movies from the 80s, so there was potential there for me, but it just kind of got worse throughout the first 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah, and it made me less hopeful for Freeform as a network in the future.
Yeah, we hadn't really seen them much on Freeform at this point, and this was kind of our first foray into them, and it was kind of like taking the worst of the CW
Yeah,
and turning it up to like 11.
because obviously we had the one thing on Freeform before, which they launched with the Shadowhunters, but that we kind of let that off because it was adapted from something.
Yeah, it was an adaptation of a already very, tween thing.
Yeah.
So
Whereas this was just no excuse.
whereas this was taking something that should appeal to me and it turned it into a tween thing, and that made it difficult to watch. And even some of the messaging on the show was really weird. Like, the typical kids, self, conscious about their weight, and the message typically is that no, you shouldn't feel ashamed about your body, but no, the episode didn't do that. By the end of the episode, the kid only got over it because they lost weight, and it was kind of like this weird, like,
Yeah, if I recall correctly, it straight up had their mum tell them, "No, lose your weight. You're awful."
no, it didn't because the mum was. Oh wait, no, it did, yeah, because no, remember because
Because the mum used to be fat as well or something.
no, the mum was still fat, but
Yeah.
the dad was cheating on the mum.
That's
And
what it was.
And
Yeah.
the entire lesson is that if you don't lose weight, you'll be cheat on. Your spouse will cheat on you in later down the marriage or
Yeah.
whatever. And she only got over it, and we had this slow motion of her taking her top off at the beach, revealing her bikini, and it was just like the entire thing was just poor taste. I don't even.
It
Oh.
was very strange.
Coming in at number 5, we have Aftermath, which was from Sci-Fi. And this was an apocalypse show where every version of the apocalypse was happening at the same time.
Which sounds like it should be amazing.
Well, kind of like Dead of Summer, it had some so bad it's good kind of qualities to it, because it was impossible not to be sort of laughing watching that pilot, as everything was, like, 1 minute it's all right. There's a virus going around, and some people are getting, not quite zombies, but like a sort of rage type virus.
Yeah.
And then, those demons that fly out from the sky and pick people up. Okay, back to rage virus. Oh, there's a meteor shower that's going to like knock out cities at a time, and everything was just going off. And while that we might have stuck with us a little bit more had it been on a different night, or had it been during the summer maybe, when okay, we'll give it a chance to see if it's at least as relentless as this as it keeps going. I can't imagine it was. Like, they burned through like seasons worth of plot in one episode, so I can't imagine they could keep that up, but who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe.
it was almost painful with how much stuff they were hitting you with, because there was just constantly just here's one thing and then another and here's something else and now there's a crazy biker gang and now there's something else.
Yeah, keeping track of it was weird. Honestly, though, like I could have had fun with that. The biggest problem for me was that the characters didn't react to things properly.
Hmm.
You know, there was a scene early on in the episode when someone they kind of know with it comes around and they have the virus and they try and attack them and they end up shooting them dead. And within like 2 minutes, you wouldn't believe that they just shot someone they knew. Like
Yeah, like they kind of go back to sitting and having breakfast or something.
oh, and there's storms. Remember, there's a storm at the start where it rains like frogs around the house.
Yeah, it's very biblical.
Just to add in more stuff. Yeah, there was a lot of biblical stuff. Even their license plate in the name of the episode was like a verse
Yeah.
from the Bible. Like there's a lot of that going on, but it was just a bit too silly and pacing far too relentless. Coming out at number 4, we have Rush Hour, which came from CBS. Of course, it's an adaptation of the movie with Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. And the first defense this show had is that you have the two lead actors trying to do impressions of those characters or those actors. You know,
Yeah.
it feels like a bad impersonation. It feels like a bad caricature of what they were. And then on top of that, you just have a really generic action
That's
show.
the thing. The movie itself isn't that original if you take away those actors.
Oh yeah, if you take
There's
away
no-
if you take away those actors, that movie's nothing.
Exactly, and the show, they could have gone either direction. They could have gone have people who can actually play those characters and do those impressions better, and actually have it feel like that, or make them different entirely and have it be like its own thing. But they did this dodgy middle ground where it just made it feel awkward and insulting.
Yeah, and bland and boring. Boring's the worst defense of this. I was just kind of bored the entire time. It didn't do anything
Yeah.
interesting. Speaking of boring and predictable and generic, and even speaking of CBS, number 3 is MacGyver, which is, it's saying something when our number 3 is one of the worst pilots I've ever seen, but it is one of the worst pilots I've ever seen.
Yeah. How this got picked up based on this, I will never understand.
How it was successful enough that it's been extended to like 20 plus episodes, I'll also never understand. MacGyver, of course, is a reboot of the old show where the main character, MacGyver, is like a secret agent who gets himself out of jams by like making things out of, what's around him, contraptions.
Everyday objects.
Yeah. And first of all, that part of it's disappointing. He makes almost nothing in the episode.
Yeah, I think he makes like 2 or 3 things and they're really underwhelming.
They're not like crazy or wild. They're just
Yeah, you want, I want him to make like a flamethrower out of all this random bits of junk. No, I'm just going to make some clippers or something.
and even
Some
that,
scissors.
even that's not that crazy because even I understand how to do that. I want him
Well,
to
yeah, but like out of more ridiculous things.
sure, but like what I want him to do is to make things that I could never have even predicted that you could make
Well, yeah.
from X, Y. Like if you watch the movie Under Siege, and this is a weird this is a weird comparison and reference to make, but he like grabs a couple of things from the kitchen and puts it in the microwave and it makes a bomb. Like something like that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't know how to do that. But it seems
I should hope not. You could not be trusted with a bomb.
yeah, but it seems vaguely believable. But here everything he does is just kind of simple. I'm like, yeah, of course that works. Like, why wouldn't it work? Like, and then
It undersells his character, doesn't it? Because you feel like you're supposed to be smart and better than everyone,
Yeah,
and he's just not.
none of the characters have any personality. The action's underwhelming. There's one scene in the pilot where they tease that there's this big thing down a plane, and MacGyver sneaks on like into the bottom of the plane, and he's trying to like mess with wires or whatever. And you think, oh, what's going to happen here? Is he going to have to end up like building a parachute? There is a parachute thing later on, but this scene just ends with him. Oh yeah, now he cuts the right wire or whatever, and the plane just lands peacefully. It's all this build up, and then it just ends.
Yeah, what's the point of that scene?
Well, it's to give you a cliffhanger for the ad break, but then you come back and
Well, yeah, then there isn't one.
it's fine. Everything's dealt with.
Yeah.
And on top of all this, but the worst thing about the episode though is what we've not even spoke about yet is the fact that it is basically every single like spy action cliche wrapped into one. With at the time, I think we referenced it to Chuck. And that Chuck was a very, it was taking all the spy cliches, but it was turning them on their head. It was wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's supposed to be like a satire of the genre almost. This just played them all straight. This just did every single spy trope you can think of, and expected us to be surprised when, X actor was revealed to be the villain the whole time. No, we knew from the first scene they were the villain the whole time.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing where if you played it as as a self-aware twist, you'd get away with it and you could have some fun. But you're playing it as dead straight when it was so obvious to anyone who's ever watched anything in their life.
Yeah.
That what's the point?
MacGyver.
It typifies the worst of network TV because it's what every problem. When someone goes to recommend you a TV show on network TV, and it's like you have certain reservations. Maybe this hits every checkbox.
Coming out number 2 is Angie Tribeca, which is a show from TBS, which does star Rashida Jones, and she is involved heavily in the show, which is a shame because I actually do quite like her. But we tried this out not really knowing what it was, and this has actually had 2 seasons this year, which baffles me.
To be fair, they burnt off the entire first season in one night.
That is true, they did do that. And this is a spoof show in the style of like Naked Gun or Airplane kind of thing, where it's just ridiculous jokes that have no logic to them or context, or it's like a cartoon essentially, and it was just painfully unfunny.
It really was. It was. We like that type of humor as well. Like we like these films we just talked about. So it's not like that's what's bothering us.
Some of them, yeah. I mean, that does.
Well, no. If it's done well, it's good.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah. This was just awkward.
It was awkward. Almost every time they paused for a joke, it was like an uncomfortable silence in the room. It's like, huh.
Yeah, I don't think there was a laugh track, which it almost would have benefited from, just so there wasn't the silence.
Do you know that's a good way of describing it? It felt like there was meant to be a laugh track, but they didn't put it in.
Yeah, because it had the pauses where usually they go and the actors all wait for it to finish and then they carry on with the scene. This just stopped and waited for you to laugh.
Don't get me wrong, it's not as extreme. Like, if you actually watch a show that's got a laugh track and take out the laugh track, the pauses are ridiculous. Like, it's actually really noticeable, but this wasn't as extreme as that, but it still felt like it was supposed to have them, because it's not like when you watch The Office or you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm and the awkwardness is the joke.
Yeah.
And you get it. It felt awkward because it wasn't being funny. I think there was maybe one joke in the entire episode that we kind of laughed at, but the rest of it was
we don't remember what it is now because
of course not. It was like
this
February.
was in January.
Was it January? It was January.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. But no, I would not recommend this on my worst enemy.
And there is somehow 2 seasons of this already and more coming.
Yeah, as a season 3's already been renewed. I would recommend it to Connor though.
Well, that is evil.
Coming in at number 1, we have another sitcom, going back to CBS. CBS is guilty of having 3 out of the 5 on this.
It's not a good year for them, is it?
Worst. No, this is typical for them. Let's be honest.
Well, this feels worse than average.
I don't know, maybe I just watch more from them this year, but I don't know, I feel like this is just typical for CBS. But yeah, we're talking about The Great Indoors, which is a show that came this fall with Joel McHale and Stephen Fry, which is its first big offence, is that it somehow managed to waste those 2. Because I love both those guys, and
I don't even know how. How do you waste them?
By having a painfully unfunny show with one of the most obnoxious forced laugh tracks ever, and a setup that feels like it's right out of the worst TV of the 90s. Other than the fact that, of course, it's constantly making jokes about computers, and, because the whole thing is, we're middle-aged and these millennials are stupid, Which, I have no problem with you making fun of young people or millennials or whatever. That can be funny, but the jokes here weren't funny.
No, they weren't. That's the thing. It's just, I hope they got a good paycheck out of it. Someone has to have gotten something out of this, right?
I don't know.
Viewers definitely didn't.
And this got extended. The season got extended. People are watching this. This breaks my heart because it's awful.
And I want it to die so that these people can be free.
And the worst part about it is I knew within 3 seconds.
Yeah.
As soon as the first line has a laugh track after it and it wasn't funny, I knew exactly what it was going to be. And I knew what I was in for. And I just sat there watching it for 22 minutes in pain the entire time. It was torturous.
Yeah, like we said, at least in Angie Tribeca, we laughed once.
We laughed once.
That's once more than this got us to do.
And this is somehow unfunnier. Unfunnier? Less funny.
There we go. Nice grammar there.
Well, this show is about as funny as I was good at grammar there.
That is accurate.
So there you go. That is where this show lies. Um, it's one of those things where it has to spell out every joke that it's. Well, I say joke in quotations. You know, like everything that's supposed to be a joke, they have to spell out so much because they assume the audience is so dumb that they won't get it. That there is no joke. It ceases to be funny.
Yeah. The only good thing to come from this show is that there was a news article where some millennials got offended because they were joking about easily offended millennials in the show, and they were just exemplifying the stereotype, and that amused me because it was real. And that exists because this show exists.
Yeah, it doesn't amuse me as much as it amuses you.
It did when you if I can't remember the actual article title, but when I've read it and the quotes, and it reads like one of these, the joke sites like The Onion or whatever. It reads like one of those articles, except it's real.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this trip down the sewer that was 2016. And, 2016 is a pretty crummy year for a lot of reasons, and TV, fortunately, is not one of them, but that does not mean that there was some waste mixed in with the... you can't have some delicious food, some delicious dessert, and, a nice hearty meal without there being some waste to deal with later on.
Yeah, there's always the runoff that you just gotta step in to get to the good stuff.
Sometimes you just gotta flush the toilet. Which is what this video was. This was us flushing the toilet. So let us know what you thought of these shows if you've seen them. Did they maybe get better? Let us know. What were some of the other worst new shows of the year that we missed? Because obviously we didn't try everything. There was some stuff we just thought... Because, some of this stuff we knew was going to be terrible, and we watched it knowing, oh, this will be so terrible that there'll be something to talk about. But there's some shows that just look kind of bland, and, we're going to have nothing to say about this. So we don't do them. We don't, I'll make sure there's links to most of these reviews of all these pilots that we've talked about in this video. Make sure and check out our top 10 new shows of the year. Plus, there's going to be top 10 shows and top 10 episodes coming up in the coming week or so. So look forward to those, guys. And yeah, like and subscribe, all that stuff. Helps us out a lot if you do. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.